Good afternoon, good evening, depends where you are, and welcome to Elastic Observability Engineer Training Preview. So in this training preview, me and my colleague Tamara, we are going to talk about this, our new course, which is built to provide you a good background, to provide you a good foundation if you need to build something around observability solution. So it's going to be two presenters here. It's going to be myself, Lutz. I work at Elastic as education architect. So my main role here is to deliver trainings. Those trainings can be in public trainings. Those trainings can be virtual trainings or can be private trainings, which we do deliver on premises at our client business space. I will be presenting the theoretical part, or I would say the slides part of this presentation. And then my colleague Tamara, who is also an education architect at Elastic, she will do a demo based on this based on this preview. At the end, then you will have a chance to ask any questions if you do have any. So, a few things on housekeeping and logistic. All of the attendees, they are automatically muted just to avoid any extra noise. If you would like to ask any question, you need to unmute yourself. We do have a dedicated session at the end for question and answers. And we do strongly recommend you to use that time to ask those questions. But sometime you may have to ask any question while we're going to be delivering this webinar. So yeah, even still feel free to ask those questions during this webinar. But of course, we do encourage to ask those questions at the end, where we have a dedicated time for question and answer sessions. In terms of sending your questions in the chat, please select all panelists and attendees so everyone can see your message, because sometimes there's a question from one attendee and that may be a question for another attendee as well. But that means that all the panelists and all the attendees will have a chance to look at your question and of course the answers as well. We do have few education engineers and some other colleagues from Elastic as well. So as Andre have mentioned, please feel free to ask any question. That question can be out of this webinar, from this training, or that question can be from basically, that question can be anything actually. Any doubts, any confusion, any challenges you are facing, you are welcome to ask those questions. I'm sure that Andre have started recording this session, and just a reminder to Andre, good, thank you. So the recording will be available after the webinar. So these are few points on housekeeping. Now let me start with a very basic thing, which is kind of a core to all the solutions we have at Elastic, which is Elastic Stack. So all the solutions we do present, which can be enterprise search, which can be observability, which can be security, all of these solutions are based on just one stack. Now this stack have different components. We have Elasticsearch at the heart. So we use Elasticsearch to store data. And once we have stored data in Elasticsearch, then we can search on that data. We can perform some analytics on that data as well. Then we have a top layer, which is Kibana. So Kibana is a visualization layer, the layer or the UI we use to interact with the data we have in Elasticsearch. So we can use Kibana to view that data, to build some visualizations, to build some dashboards as well. At the same time, Kibana also allows us to manage some features of the stack as well. Now the question here is that we do have Elasticsearch where we can store data. We do have Kibana, the one we can use to explore data, how to get data into Elasticsearch, which is ingest layer. In that ingest layer, we have two things. One is a really powerful ETL tool, which can help you to read from multiple data sources. It can help you to transform your data and load that data into multiple outputs as well, which is called Logstash. On the other hand, we have another tool at the ingest layer called Beats. Beats is not a name of a single piece of software. It's a family. And in that family, you have different beats. And every single beat kind of serve a single purpose. Maybe you would like to use metric beat or file beat or winlog beat or function beat, etc. In terms of the solutions provided by Elasticsearch, we have three solutions, which the first one is enterprise search. Second one is observability. and third one is search. And all of these solutions, they are built on top of this one stack. In terms of this stack, if you would like to drive something out of this stack, you can do on premises. Apart from that, we also provide Elastic Cloud Service or Elastic Service. That means that Elasticsearch and Kibana managed by Elastic. Apart from that, you can also have the option of ECE, what we call Elastic Cloud Enterprise, and ECK as well. So that was just a quick intro about the stack. Now, let's focus on the topic of this webinar. And the topic I have chosen for this webinar, me and my colleague actually, not just me, is structuring and processing data in Elasticsearch. This is the topic we do teach in this observability course. So first of all, let me introduce you that the topic I have chosen for this webinar. Where do we have this topic in our course outline for Elastic Observability Engineering training? Altogether in that course, we have 12 modules, and most of the modules have 4 lessons, and every single lesson is followed by a hands-on lab. That means a very hands-on course. It's not just a theoretical course where we will teach you about the slides. Instead, we will teach you the slides along with the environment where you will have the opportunity to implement all of those steps, the ones you have learned theoretically. So it's a very hands-on course. As you can see from this slide, that the topic I have chosen for this webinar is module number 7 and module number 8. So few things from module number 7 and few things from module number 8. So the focus here is that how we can structure data and how we can process data. But before I start talking about this topic, I need to give you a bit of a walkthrough that how we do get up to this stage. So in module number 1, we talk about about observability fundamentals. And in observability fundamentals, we talk about Elastic Stack. We start with Elastic Stack because this solution is built on top of Elastic Stack. Then we move towards and start explaining about the different pillars of observability, which are logs, metrics, and APM. Then we move towards module number 2, which is Elasticsearch for time series data. Again, first of all, here we introduce basic concepts. Then we introduce mappings, followed by queries and aggregations. Now, these topics like mappings and queries and aggregations by themselves, they're really in-depth topics. Then the last thing we talk about in module 2 is about index management. Third one is about shipping metrics. So we start with index templates, followed by data processing. We basically introduce our ingest pipelines at this stage. And then we also talk about how you can handle different failures, which can be overall at the ingest pipeline level, or which can be at the processor level as well, any processor level as well. Then number 4 is about shipping log data. Here we introduce FileBeat. We talk about the different modules of the FileBeat as well, along with the resilience of the FileBeat. And the last thing we talk about in that module is that how you can process multi-line log files. Module number 5 is about application performance monitoring. In short, it's called APM. Here we talk about Elastic APM. Then we introduce Java agent. We talk about Node.js agent. And then we talk about a real user monitoring agent. Now we already have introduced a lot of stuff up until this stage. Then we introduce observability apps. And the point of introducing observability apps here is that up to this stage, we have a good understanding of the observability, its pillars. We talked about shipping metric data, we talked about log data, we talked about APM. So now we introduce at this stage that which observability apps are available, which are powered by all these kind of data and how you can utilize them. But then we face a new challenge. What if the data doesn't comes in a structure which can be utilized by the apps? So maybe at this stage, we need to start focusing on that how we can structure data, how we can process data. So this is kind of a walkthrough before I start actually talking about structuring data and processing data. This kind of a foundation that how from module 1 till module 6, we have learned about different things. And at this stage, we have introduced that how you can structure and process data. Okay. From here, first of all, the very first thing that why we need to structure data, simply for the reason that data that can come in many different shapes, in many different forms, because data comes from many different sources. Based on the different sources, the format can be different. And if that format is not something which you can utilize later, then simply for that reason, you need to structure that data. If you don't structure that data, then it simply means that that data or those lines, you will find them in a message field. Like the first example we have on this slide is we have a message field and we have a message in there. Okay. But maybe this information is not useful. You need to structure that data because this field, which is message, have a log line where I can see that I have a timestamp, I have a log level, and I have some kind of status as well. But the problem here is that I need to structure that data before I can utilize that data. So maybe I would like to structure that message field where I can get the value of timestamp, I can get the value of log level as debug, and at the same time, I can also retrieve that value of status, which is my app stopped. And after that, of course, I would be able to utilize that data as well. Now, that's fine, but where I can structure that data. So this slide basically presents a typical journey of data. The data may have started from beats, been collected by beats and shipped to Elasticsearch. At the same time, maybe it was coming from a queue. Logstash was ingesting that data from a Kafka queue as an example and sending to Elasticsearch. Along with that, of course, Logstash can also send that data to different other sources as well. So out of this data journey, we have two places where we can structure that data. Either we can use ingest node, which is part of Elasticsearch cluster, or you can use Logstash, which is not part of Elasticsearch cluster, but it's part of Elastic Stack. So these are two places where you can structure your data. If we have two places, then which one is better? Shall I use Elasticsearch or shall I use Logstash? Both have their own pros and cons. I would say as a starting point, if you don't have any Logstash cluster up and running, if you don't have any Logstash instances running, then I would say start with ingest pipeline, because most of the time you would be able to get whatever you would like to get it done from pipeline. But there are few restrictions, there are few limitations. Let's say as an example, if you would like to enrich data using any external systems like a relational database, ingest pipeline cannot help you with that. Then the only solution in that case is that you need to use Logstash, because Logstash is a fully flexible ETL tool. That simply means that you can read from many systems, you can do a lot of transformation, and you can load that data into many systems as well. While with the ingest pipeline, it's a part of Elasticsearch cluster. Of course, the data the data you are sending to Elasticsearch cluster, you can only apply a pipeline on that one. In terms of the output, the only available output is Elasticsearch cluster by itself. In terms of the processing, Logstash have a little bit more processors available as compared to whatever we do have in Elasticsearch pipeline. But just would like to say one thing again. For your starting point, I would recommend you to start with ingest pipeline. And if you do get up to a stage where there are some additional tasks, the one you cannot get done with an ingest pipeline, then you can implement Logstash as well. Now, so the point here is, in terms of structuring that data, that our logs, they're not in a known format. So we need to apply some kind of transformation by using some of the processors so we can get some reasonable values out of those log lines. So here I'm going to introduce you Elasticsearch Ingest Pipeline. So what is Elasticsearch Ingest Pipeline? Elasticsearch Ingest Pipeline is a set of processors. So that means that whatever the documents you're sending to Elasticsearch, ingest pipeline will get those documents, it will apply those processors, depending which processors you have defined in that ingest pipeline, and then it will send that data for indexing to data node. In terms of ingest pipeline, we run that ingest pipeline on ingest nodes. Like in an example here, we're sending this data, which have a message field A, B, C, and we have an ingest pipeline running on ingest node, which have three processors, grok, date, and set. And as a result, as an outcome, you can see that we have field 1 as a value A, followed by field 2 of value B, and field 3 with value C. How you can define that ingest pipeline? You can define that ingest pipeline by using ingest API. By using that ingest API, you need to provide few things. Number one, you need to provide the unique ID of your pipeline. Then you need to provide the array of processors. You can simply provide a single processor, or you can provide multiple processors as well. So you can see that in the processor section here, we have that array syntax. That simply means that you can provide more than one processors as well. As per this example, we have applied split processor on the message field, and we're asking to split the value of the message field wherever you can find a space. A very simple pipeline, a very simple processor, but definitely a very useful processor. Now, it's always recommended to test your pipeline before you actually implement that pipeline. How you can test that pipeline is by using simulate endpoint. With the simulate endpoint, your pipeline is still the same, the one we have seen in the last slide, which is a split processor. But now you need to provide a sample document to see what would be the outcome on that sample document as a result of this ingest pipeline. So we have this sample document, and we can see that as a result of that processor, which is a split processor on message field, we're asking to split the values wherever it can find a space. And now we can see that as a result, that message field is divided into three different values. So we do know how to define ingest pipeline. We also have seen that how to test that ingest pipeline. And now the question is that how and where you can use that pipeline, because you knew, okay, that your data needs some kind of structuring. You have defined that pipeline. You have tested that pipeline. Now the point is that how and where you can use that pipeline. There are many options, but I'm only going to introduce two options here. The first one is that whatever you're using can be beats, can be Logstash. Of course, they have their output section. Like here, output.elasticsearch. You need to provide the host where you would like to send data, the address of your Elasticsearch cluster, and then you can provide the name of the pipeline, that whatever the data I will send from this source, it have to go through from this particular pipeline. That's the one method. The other method is that you can define a default pipeline for an index. If you do know that you're going to index data in a particular index, which can be ABC or XYZ, you can define a default pipeline for that index ABC or XYZ. That simply means that every single document which is going to hit that index for indexing purpose, that will go through from that index pipeline. So now we have a good understanding of ingest pipeline, and we briefly have seen one processor. And now I'm going to introduce you another processor, which is a bit more useful, bit more, I would say, complicated, which is called Dissect. So we have this example here. And as per this example, we have this timestamp. Then we have these brackets with a value, which is debug. And then we have my app space stopped. If I try to use the previous processor, then that simply means that that split processor, that simply means that I'm going to end up having some values like with the debug, I'm going to get those brackets as well. And then my app stopped have a space in between. It's going to break down that into two different values. And this is not what I want. I would like to keep them as a one value, which is my app stopped. So here I need to use this dissect processor. And the behavior of that dissect processor is that I need to provide the name of the field, which is message. Then I need to provide the pattern. And for the pattern, I will use that %sign along with the name of the field with the curly brackets. So here, I'm going to explain that pattern. I have this %sign and then curly brackets. and I'm going to give the name of the field as a timestamp. So the first value will be extracted and saved in the field at the rate timestamp. Then I have space because I want to drop that space, that bracket again because I would like to drop that bracket. I would like to discard that bracket, percent sign, curly bracket, name of the field, which is log level in this case. So this value debug without those brackets will be saved in a field called log level. Again, I have this bracket outside the curly bracket because I would like to drop, I would like to discard, space again, followed by percent sign status within curly bracket. So the last value, including that space between my app space stop, will be saved in that status field. As a result, you can see that I have a timestamp field, I have a log level field, and I have a status field, my app space stopped. The original message field will be still here, that will be retained. We just have omitted here, but you have the option even to drop that one by using another processor. But as a default behavior of this Dissect processor, that original message field will be retained. Then you can also use the Dissect processor to extract the key value pairs as well. Like here in this example, I have host equal app server and status equal status okay. So it's a key value pairs. So I can use that star and sign to take the name of the field and the value of the field. So look closely at this example where we have host equal app server. I'm using percentage curly bracket and then star field one. So that means whatever the field is, the name of the field is, that will be picked up as a name of the field, then equal sign, that means the value, and then percent sign, curly brackets, and then and sign field one. As a result, you can see that the host is equal to app server as a value. Same thing on the status equal status underscore okay, where I'm using star to pick the name of the field and using and sign to pick the value of that status field. So you can also use this Dissect processor for extracting key value pairs as well. So I have introduced kind of two processors here. Of course, in this training, we talked about more processors as well. This is just a preview. Now I'm going to introduce a script processor. But first of all, why do we need to have a script processor? Simply for the reason that even though we do provide a good number of processors, but of course there are unlimited number of use cases. It's not possible to provide a processor for every single use case because every single use case is a unique use case. So we do provide a good amount of processors, but at the same time, we also have given you the option that if there is something, the one you can't get out of any given processor, then you can use a script processor where you can write the code to transform the data as you like. The language we use is called Elasticsearch Painless. So we use that Painless language to write those scripts. It's a fast, secure, and it has a Groovy-like syntax. In terms of the support, it supports all of the Java data types and a subset of the Java API. Of course, it's quite a big subject as well. It's quite a vast subject as well. If you would like to get more information, we have provided a link on this slide here where you can get more information on Painless. If you're really interested about Painless, or if that is what you want to do, then in the new version of Elastic Stack, which is 7.7 only released few days ago, we also have a really good thing called Painless Lab, which we never had before. It's been introduced as a beta in 7.7, where you have the opportunity to use that Painless Lab to build your code and to see the outcome as well. If you are interested, I would definitely recommend you to download 7.7, or maybe just simply sign up on our cloud portal. And on our cloud portal, of course, we always have the latest version. And you have 14 days. Andre, am I right? Is a 14 days free trial on cloud? Andre? Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
It's 14 days, yeah. So if you would like to even test those features as well, simply sign up on the cloud and you have 14 days free trial to test those new features as well. So in terms of those script, first of all, the purpose of the script, that if you would like to do something which is not possible with any of the processor, then you can use the scripts. You have two options. You can use inline script or you can use a stored script. Inline scripts are handy for small tasks and stored scripts are handy for where you would like to use that script again and again, and especially with the different values. So look closely here. First of all, the name of the script, name of the processor is a script, and then we have source. Source means provide your code here. And then we have the parameters, and you can provide the parameters in the prompt section. Here, this is example for the inline script, where we're simply going to have a field or the value of the field set to whatever the values are in the parameters, and the parameter value is hello world. So eventually, new underscore field will have the value hello world. That's a very simple example. Second example is based on stored script. And for stored script, you can store a script in cluster state and then recall that script or invoke that script later with the script ID. So first of all, how you're going to store that script is by providing that script, and now that script will be stored in cluster state. Later on, you can simply invoke that script with script ID. Like I'm going to use that stored script now in the ingest pipeline. The processor is a script. ID is my underscore script. And then in the prompts, I'm going to give a value hello world. So this one is useful where you have to use one certain script many times, and especially when the values are changing. In terms of how you can access fields, we're going to be using that CTX field name notation. So for the setting purpose, like here on the left-hand side, I'm going to set the value of this new field to hello world. So that would be the syntax, CTX bracket new field, and provide the value. If you would like to get the value from another field while you're going to be setting that value, then you can look at the syntax in the second example, which is CTX curly bracket new field equal, again, same syntax to get the value from the timestamp field. So you can provide a static value, the value you like, or you can pick up a value from another field as well. It's also possible to access metadata fields as well, like ID and index name as well. So that's from my side. And now I'm going to request Tamara to take over and start doing demo. Yes, Tamara. And of course, at the end, we're going to have a time for the Q&A session as well. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, hi, everybody can see and hear me. Just
yes,
give me some plus here in the channel, so I can see if everybody's awake on the other side. So Luca, Lutfi is awake. Maybe people don't even know where is the chat. Yeah, look. So thank you. So okay, I'm gonna show a little bit now. I'm gonna do a couple demo. And for this demo, I'm using actually Elastic Cloud, so which is very nice, because then here I can just go and start it to play out a little bit. So I'm just gonna go. So now everybody know my Elastic email, right? So I'm just gonna log to show you what you're gonna see actually. Let me see if I remember the password. Always a challenge, right? Cannot be this or that. Yeah, fine. So when you actually log into your cloud, you're going to see something like this. So you can do a try-up like Lutfi was talking about, but I'm just going to show you what kind of environment playing with. So if you see, I've created here a deployment. I could have done deployment with you here, but it just sometimes take like some minutes to do it. I just wanted to have it done. But then here also what you can see is this training area. Can you see here in all this part? So you also have this link here, which it is Elastic Learning Portal. So now we have a new learning portal. I don't know if any of you have done a course before with us. I don't know. Let me see. I cannot see the chat. Oh, let me see. Put it here. So I'm not sure if anybody, but if you never did, so you can come here and take a look. And then when you log in inside, so you can see what we have, and then you're going to have something like this. So if you see, it's a bit, I'm doing some new trainings and some other things. So then you can be access to all your trainings. So this is pretty much how is our new portal. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to talk and give you a couple of examples a bit in a demo way. So let's take a look in this message here. So first of all, I'm using what we call simulate. So simulate is a way that you can have a sample. Like when you're sending documents to Elasticsearch, you have the body, right? So here I can put the body of my put. So I can actually make a sample of it. And then I can execute the processor over this body. So in my case, what I'm doing a split in the message field. And I'm gonna use a separator space. And when I'm execute, so you can use here, click here to send request, or I'm gonna show you as well, which is very cool. I'm here, by the way, I'm inside here, DevTools. You can also take a look here. You have the help, which teaches you all the shortcuts. Very handy, right? So I'm gonna come here and I'm just gonna come on, because I have in a Mac, enter, and then I'm gonna execute. And now if you see what it happens, it took this message here and it broke by the space, right? So, sorry, I put it the same. I'm gonna put another one. Let's put a target. So how can I see which options I have? So I can just space and it gives, so if I control space, I can have all the different ones. So what I want what they call here separator on failure, so they don't have all the options. So what I can do is I can come and put target field, and then I can put new one. So now you see I kept the message. So if you see the message here, see, then it broke here, make a debug, my app, and stop. So now if you start to see this, you say, okay, I broke, but now I have an array. What can I do in array? Because each one of them is supposed to be in its own field, right? So how can I work with that? So now we're going to actually start it to build up our ingest pipeline. So ingest pipeline is take the body and step by step start to build. So do the first, do the second processor, and this way incremental. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to try to put a name in one of those part of the arrays. And how can you actually have access to it? So I'm going to control space. I'm using the set one. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a new field. So let's start with the first one here, which is what it is. It's a timestamp, right? So I'm going to put timestamp. And which value it is? So it's the value of the first element of my array. How can I get that, right? So if you see, my array calls new, but this is a value. So every time I have a value, I need to do this double curly braces. Otherwise, I cannot access the value. So then I can put new.0. And now if you see, I created a new field. And then I started to build. See, first I split it, and then I set. And now there is one that is a very cool one that I can do is, imagine like this. One of the most important things when you're structuring your data is have the right types. So example, I'm going to put here a numeral, like 250, like this. So when I'm actually executing the grok, the split, so what is going to happen is, I put it something, so yes, this comma here. So now if you see here, this is a text, right? It's a string. How can I change that? Why? Because when you're using Kibana and doing visualizations, it's very important you have the right type. So I can use one here which is really, really cool, called convert. And the convert one, I can actually, Control I makes pretty, that's nice, right? I can come here and get a field and change the type, right? So let's take timestamp. A lot of people may want to say, okay, timestamp is a date, not a text, right? Or, so how could I do that? So if I come here and I put timestamp, and I put type date, guess what happens? It doesn't allow you. Why? Because I don't have type date in a JSON. So the ingest pipeline happens before you put in Elasticsearch. So you have no type. So you can only have Boolean, you can have float, you can have integer, and that's it. You cannot have anything else than that, and text. So what I'm going to do is, so here I cannot do anything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try now to do for the other one, which is the integer, right? So now I'm going to get that field. So let's count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to get 4, and I'm going to use the integer. So if everybody remembers how it was, so now when I do this, take a look, is an integer. Great, right? Now when you're going to put in Elasticsearch, it's going to recognize as an integer, which means is I can go there and do metrics. I can do the sum of this specific field. So I can start it to work with it. So it's very important, first of all, have the right types. Second, when I'm doing the pipeline, I need to make sure that I'm building up the blocks because they happen in order. So it's going to happen first the split, then the result of the split is going to be used in the set, the result of the set is going to be used in the convert, and in this way you can start to build everything else. So this is where pretty much a little bit about how can you build. So if you see, we started here to build things a little bit dynamic. I do have other one as well, which called Dissect. The thing is, nobody sees, I don't know if anybody sees the chat here, but anybody here knows Grok? I know Luke and Lutfi know Grok, but anybody else here? Change to everyone. Let me see. Oh, yes, good. Now I see the message. Sorry, it's coming, it's coming. So great. So first thing everybody does, you know what they do? They use Grok. No, you should never use Grok. So you should never use Grok. First, why? Because Grok is slow. And if you want to use Elasticsearch, you want to be what? Fast. So there is one very undermined processor, and this also having Logstash if you're using, called Dissect. And Dissect is going to do what? You can actually start to build it up and parse and do a couple of fancy things with it. So Dissect, what I'm saying, okay, I have this. This I'm going to put inside the field timestamp. So now I'm defining the field itself. And then I'm saying, now I'm going to have here, the log level is debug. And if you see here, I can put the limitators as well. And this is not going to be included in the field. And then I can have here which status it is. And now if I execute this, take a look, I have everything. Log level message status, and it's much quicker than Grok. So a lot of people, they don't know that. And the first thing they're going to do Grok. So never. So first, try to dissect as much as you can. And then with the result of the dissect, you can Grok. Because what I could do if I need to Grok something, I could just build, right? Because this is incremental. So imagine that I want to Grok this status here. So I could just put Grok, put the field status, and put the pattern. And then I can Grok this. So I can do this, what I call a hybrid solution. You don't need to use just one. You can just build up the blocks and make in the best way possible. So about speed, again, Dissect is the quickest one you can have. And then if you cannot do anything, you Grok. But there is one cool thing that you can also do, which is key value. So you can also do key value one. Which I'm going to show later. So before that, I'm going to show one more thing about Dissect, because I was almost forgetting. That's good that I put it here. It's a little bit in the way that Lutf was talking about, right? So what we are doing here, so we are getting this message, and then I'm putting this in the field timestamp, getting a space as a delimitator here, and then I'm using this, and I'm using as a field 1. And then the result of this, I'm going to put inside the host. So this is going to come as the name of the field, and this is going to go as the value of it. And you can do all of this by Dissect. You don't even need to use the KV processor, because you can do all of that inside. So now if you see, I broke. So now I have host, app search, I have the message, status okay, and I start to build. Really cool, right? But there is one limitation about this, what it is. I need to know what I'm gonna have. While the KV, I necessarily doesn't need to know the amount I'm gonna have. So if I just have a bunch of things. It's just started. I could just add and started to consume, which is a thing that you cannot do with the dissect. Dissect is a bit like grok. You need to define exactly what you want. While the key v is, if I would have here one more value as an example, new status equal new, if you see, it doesn't go because the status recognize everything until the end. Now, if I would come and get this inside a key v, a key value, actually would be able to recognize that, which is really, really cool, right? So there is a lot of things you can do when it comes to grokking, processing, pipelines. So you can go crazy, and this goes so quick. One very important that I want to tell you about is about one that's called date. Why I'm going to talk about this specific one that's called date. The biggest thing is because when you have a date, in Elasticsearch, if you don't put a time zone, it's going to come as UTC. So imagine you're in Italy, and every log you put it, you think that is going to come as Italy. But if you don't put the +2, right, it's +1. Yes, +1, which is 1 hour more, then you're not going to have it. So then what you can do is you can put the field, and here you can define here. Oh, they're not showing, but you can define here the time zone. They have this, and then you can put the time zone. In our case, is CEST, right? Central Europe summertime. And then you can actually put, and now if you put it here, this specific field, it's gonna recognize the time zone and it's gonna add to it. So now it's not gonna be recognized as UTC anymore, but as a central time. This is very important because later when you're going to try to do a time series in Kibana, if you don't have the time zones correctly, you can see values in the future, values that's supposed to be now in the past, becomes a mess. We teach a lot, so a lot of students, when I started to talk about the date, how important it is, a lot of them raise their hands, yeah, I have been there, have done that. I realized later when I was trying to build some timeline using Kibana. So do I have any questions? Oh, yes, we're going to open for questions later. Sorry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk about scripting. So the script is very cool because you do have a couple of options. So you can still use the simulate and use the script. Remember that Lutf mentioned about the Painless lab? Here it is, because this is 7.0, 7.7. We already have in the cloud, so you can actually test it. So if you come here, you can check things. So this comes as a default, this beautiful smiley, right? But I can check. So one cool thing about script in Elasticsearch, you have a lot of the different kind of Java libraries. So the one that I like a lot is the math, right? So what I can do is, as an example, get a logarithm of 10. So like if I have 1,000, it's going to become 3. So now what you can do is inside your script, you can do some math on it. So imagine that I get a price, and I'm gonna, as a retail price, and I wanted to know how much I should charge. So you could do some accounts inside the script and put the how much you need to sell that in order to have a profit. So you can do these kinds of calculations inside a script, which is very, very cool, right? So let's take a look here in the script first, how we're gonna do. So I'm going to come here. If you see, this is very, as Lutf was talking about. First here, I'm getting the value, new value, and I'm putting something here, which is in this case, this value of this specific parameter here. If you see, do I have a new value? No, I don't. So as I don't have, it's going to create for you this one. It's just generate for you a new one. If I would have a new value, what is going to happen is going to override it. So it's cool because you can create new fields or override old ones with like a default value if you want. So this now I can start to build. So you can do a lot of things, right? This, as we are talking, just simulating it. One thing that you can do, we can actually put this inside the cluster state as Lutf was talking about. So in my case, I'm going to call my script pipeline. And what I'm doing, I'm just doing a hello here. But I'm going to do a tweak here in this specific pipeline here. I only want this pipeline to happen. I'm going to show in the simulate, which is better. It's only going to execute this script if, I'm going to put an if here, the CTX, and then I can put a value here. So let's see, change. And then I can put equal true. So I can put I can say I'm gonna put differently here. I'm gonna put like change. It's the what the heck? What's going on here? Just give me a second. It's changing. Here. So I'm just gonna. My keyboard is going crazy a little bit. So and then you're gonna put something. Yes, it came now. So then I can put value change. And now if I see, if CTX value is going to change, then it's going to make something. So if you see now it didn't execute the script because I did a conditional inside. So it's only going to execute this script, this processor, if this happened. So what I'm going to do right now, I can make a value here. And I can put the value as change. And now it's not going to work because it's missing a comma. And now if you see, it executes the script. Cool, right? So you can do conditional as well inside your pipeline. So, and this way you can start to select what you want or not. So in this case, I can do my pipeline with the script inside, or I can do differently. I can actually put the script inside the cluster state. And now I can actually call this script using the ID in here, script ID, and I put the parameter. So it's another option. And if I use the same pipeline, I override it. That's how it happens. If I want to know how this pipeline looks like, I can just do a get. And now I get what I have inside the pipeline. And now what I can do is, yes, you can also choose. Lucy say sorry. Yeah, you can do if pretty much any processor you want. I'm just showing for a script here. One thing that you can do is how you're going to execute your pipeline, right? I'm just showing this and etc. So let's create a new index. And in this new index, I'm going to use something very neat in the settings, which call what? The full pipeline. And here I'm going to use my pipeline. Which pipeline is? My script pipeline. So now if you see, it created, sharded, allocated, everything. Okay, now let's put my first document. So I put here new index. That's how I put inside the Elasticsearch. So now, as you see here, the script doesn't have anything, right? I took it out. It's just gonna get hello world, and then I can put here message or something. And then I can put hi, and then I can execute. And when I get this, it's gonna actually go and add the field that you have in the script. Cool, right? So you have this option to have the full pipelines. You can also use pipelines in the context of reindex, update by query, and delete by query. So, and those are the options that you have. I don't know if we have any time. Do you have any time, Andrea?
Yeah, you can proceed. We still have 30 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to build with you this pipeline. If she's empty, this is HA proxy log. So first of all, what should we do here? Anybody has any idea? How should I parse this? No idea. Anybody? What is the most important one that I said that maybe I should start with because it's quick? Dissect. That's it. So let's start with the dissect then. Can we use the dissect? Let's look to this. So if you see, I have spaces here, right? And I'm like, how I'm going to use the dissect here. So first, let's build our first step. So I'm going to come here and put the dissect, which field it is, message. And now let's talk about the pattern, right? So first of all, we do have a timestamp here, but this timestamp is what? It's across 3 different fields. How can I use dissect with this? So the cool thing about dissect, I have an option here that I can come in the dissect, and then I can come, and then I can put like this, timestamp. I can put a space. I can just copy this, and I can put a plus in the beginning. So it's gonna get the second one and add to this specific field. So now if you see I have this and this, so I can come and have this for timestamp. So now if you see my result, I already see, right? So it got inside pretty much this, this, and this. Why it got everything? Because it's greedy when it comes to dissect. If you don't put anything, consumes the rest. So as we don't have anything, it's gonna just consume. So localhost is pretty much what? Is the name of the host, right? So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna go and put host with the space here. Now if you see, I'm gonna have timestamp and host got everything else. As I said, it's greedy. So now everything got into the host. So now you got the host, and now here what you see 2 more fields here. So you do have the process name and the process ID. How I'm gonna do that? So I can come, space. I just copy because I'm lazy. I'm not gonna be putting everything here. So I click process and process ID. But the thing is, if you see the process would go through, but not the ID, because I put a space. But what can I do? I can just put the delimiter here, right? And now I can put the rest of the message. If you see, I have here a dot, which I can definitely put it in here, this delimiter as well. And I can put in the rest of another, sorry, I forgot to put this. And then I can put in the rest of my message. So now if you see, I have timestamp, I have the host, the process, and let me see here. And then I have the rest of the message. So, and then I start to work with the message, right? So what I'm gonna do as well, I can show you what we can do. So if you take a look in the rest of my messages, you're gonna notice a couple of things, right? So you're gonna notice that when you start to build up, I saw that now. So when I got to see, I see this. What does this look like? A key V, right? Smells like a key V. But I have this first and those 3 here. So this is actually just a status, right? So I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna get this, this as a status because I want to reach in that comma there. And then here I can put this as a rest. And let's see what I have. And the rest got reasons. So one thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use this comma as, better, because then I can clean a bit. So now if you see what I have, a key V. Could be more, I don't know. Could be that this log has more. Let's use the key V. Key V has some cool things that you can do with this, with the key V. So I'm gonna just add it up. So this is an interactive one. So why is not getting? Let me see. I don't know. It's not liking me right now. That's weird. Anyway, let's just continue. I want to get it eventually. So, and when it comes to the key V, there is one thing I want to show that is very cool. You can come here. If you right click here, you can open the documentation. And this goes to the simulate, which is very cool. And here you have available all the processors here. So this is the page of the processors that you have available when it comes to the ingest. So we can come here and check it out, the key V. So what can we use and how can we use? And the key V has this field split and value split. So if you see here, what it is the delimitator between the key V and what is used between what is value and key. So I'm just gonna copy. As I said, I'm quite lazy. I don't like to have a lot of work. So I'm just gonna come here, Control I to be pretty. And now I'm gonna see. So there, if you take a look, what is my delimitator? It's a comma and what? A space. And how do I have here? I have a semicolon. Somebody said about the brackets. Where? Yeah, this is where is the brackets? Let me see. So it's something. Oh, I forgot the field. Yeah, it gets tough if we don't put the field here. Yeah. So now if you take a look here, now you have everything, right? So I'm just going to do one thing more just so we can see. I'm going to delete the message. So you do have a remove, and then I can put the field. I'm removing the message. Too much garbage, right? Now if you see, we just parse it, right? So the rest was this. Now I have reason, process, code, check duration, host, ID, what is my status, server update, app server is up, the timestamp, and the info. Cool, right? So we got a message, we grok it out, we dissect, we key V, even remove without even touching in a grok. So it's pretty much what you can do. And I hope you enjoyed. It was a little bit of a quick demo. I had a lot of things I wanted to show. But I think with this, you can get a good idea what you can achieve with pipelines and how can you structure data in order to have the best things when it comes to Elasticsearch. So now we can open for questions. Thank you.
Feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions you might have.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone. I'm Luigi. I'm an old school Logstash user. I used to use Grok, and you just told me that Grok is the past, and I should move to Dissect. And that's a great presentation. I think I will move to ingest pipelines, because you showed me how quick is setting up the rules to process the messages. So I guess I will move instantaneously to ingest. And just a quick question. Are there some issues with the processor, because I'm using Elastic Cloud? Is it like an heavy load for Elastic Cloud to move all the parsing into Elastic Cloud? Because now I'm using Logstash.
Do you want me to take or you take, Lutf?
You can take it. I can add if I feel like,
okay.
But you can start here.
So all depends when it comes to this. Why I'm answering that? Because there is one thing. If you grok and you have a bad formatted grok, which is very normal. I used to work before Elastic with pattern recognition, so I was a regex kind of a girl. So if you actually build wrongly your grok, you can consume a lot of CPU, right, and memory, which would be bad for a cluster. So you need to take care. But most of the time, doesn't matter. What you do have an option as well when it comes, you can do have a specific node that called ingest node. So, and this node is the one that's going to execute those ingest pipelines. So if you put it this and you start to see a pressure, meaning that when you are putting or doing searches, it gets too slow, you can say, okay, I can scale, add another node, take out the ingest and just have that node as ingest. So then you have more power to process this. So when it comes to this, if you use pipeline, very quick, is not supposed to interfere a lot when it comes to the processing. Just take care about Grok. Grok is the biggest devil of all, because a bad formatted regular expression kills. But this is everything. You work with Logstash, right, Luigi? So you know, a bad Grok there is going to interfere there as well. So don't need to take care, put it handles supposed to have that. So just make sure you have everything set. And if you think that is interfering too much, you can make an option to have only one of your nodes to be ingest. But most of times, a regular thing like just some logs or Nginx, Apache, you're not going to be putting too much pressure. So you can be cool about it. That's supposed to handle. That's why it's Elastic, right? You're supposed to have a heavy load very quick. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Any other question?
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm Luigi. One more question is about the scripts. So I can use those scripts also for alerts, for water, right?
Yes, so I can take that question. So your script is, especially when you talk about stored script, so your script is stored in cluster state, and you can invoke that script wherever you would like to invoke. Like the example we have seen here was in a script processor, but the stored script can be used otherwhere as well.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, can I ask a question also?
Yeah, sure.
So from what I read on your documentation, I'm still not working with ingest node, but it looked like it is not really recommended. So it's not. I didn't understand.
Would you mind sharing that link in the chat, please?
No, okay. I will. I can check for it, and I can send you if you want. But it looked like it the least preferable way. Maybe I didn't understand it correct.
I can give you a summary. First of all, I'm going to request you to please send that link so we can read through from that as well. So the summary here is that what we do recommend is that if you don't have any Logstash in place, it's always a good starting point to start off with ingest pipeline. Of course, there are some limitations. Like the first limitation is that the ingest pipeline can only read or only catch the data coming to Elasticsearch. In terms of the output, the only available output is Elasticsearch. And in terms of the processors, there are less number of processors available as compared to Logstash. Having said that, maybe that is your use case. You don't need to use all of those processors which are available in Logstash. Because by using ingest pipeline, you don't have to maintain separate servers for Logstash, because this element is part of the Elasticsearch cluster. So even if you have to scale, like the last question we had was about if there's a heavy pre-processing of your data, then you can have dedicated ingest nodes, and those dedicated ingest node can pre-process your data. So yeah, but again, I'm going to request to send us that link because I'm not sure what is the context of that statement. So I need to read the context of that statement, because without the context of that statement, I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But this is what the general recommendations are. Tamara, would you like to add anything on that?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to ingest nodes. A lot of people think that ingest node is the whole devil, right? Because by default, every single node is an ingest node. So you can execute this in any node. So it's designed by that. So if you go to our cloud, every single node is going to be able to execute an ingest pipeline. So a lot of people, they get afraid and they don't want to move from Logstash. And there is a big difference. So why should you use ingest node and not Logstash? This is the biggest question, right? Nobody asked that. So we have this question like every single training that I give, there is a student that asks that. So what is the recommendation when it comes to ingest node? And I think maybe gets a little bit more clear. So Logstash is where you do what we call ETL, so which is extract, transform, and load. And the transformation, it's when actually you're going to do enrichment of data. Maybe you're going to use a database, so or you're going to do HTTP request. So you're going to get the data from somewhere else, and then you're going to enrich your data. While ingest node, as is inside Elastic, you don't have this capability. It's like I could not say host, where this host is, and get like a GeoIP. I couldn't do that because I can only work in the concept inside Elasticsearch. So, and that's where you use Logstash. So a lot of people, what they're using nowadays is a hybrid solution. So they get Logstash because Logstash, it's a bit heavy to run it. They do the enrichment, and then they do the dissect, the grokking, some inside Elasticsearch because it's quicker, and Elasticsearch have the capability to just actually load balance inside. So if one node is a little bit too busy with ingest, they can send to another node, and this way you can actually get a very good result out of your cluster. File bits, metric bits, all of them use ingest pipelines, all the bits. So for you to see, that is recommended to use ingest pipelines, and we use ourselves in our solutions. So I think, I hope I could take out a little bit of this misunderstanding when it comes when you should use or not. Totally recommended, use without fear. And if you need to be enrichment, you can do Logstash, send to ingest, and do the regular things. Because I think Luigi have used it here, can be really crazy having a lot of pipelines inside Logstash. Goes into your mantle, right? Gets huge. So if you can take the load and crash into different places, could be a good solution as well. Great. So we do hope I answered the question here. Yeah, we do have a cool thing inside. Sorry, was breaking up?
Yeah, you was breaking up. Are you okay now?
Okay, I'm out. Okay. Do you want me to take this question?
In terms of the last question, I mean, you can carry on. I will see if I would. Yeah.
Okay, so this last question we have here, we do have some cool things you can do in Logstash. First of all, in Logstash, you can use something called R. And when you do R, you actually auto-reload. So you can change, like you have somewhere, like in a VI or in a Nano, and you change the options and you auto-reload Logstash. So if you have there the file for the beginning, so every time reloads, reread the file again. Other option you have, let me see if I get the name here. Just give me a second. It's very quick. I get it here. I'm gonna get for you. It's so cool. So you can do something like, I can send you for you guys this. I like this a lot. So you can use something like this. Oh, it's not pasting. Ah, that's bad. I think got a bit too big. So I'm just going to put the first part then. So you can use the input call lines. This. And then if you put, when you get Logstash, you put -R. Every time you change, the config auto reloads, and then you can see the output. So can you see this?
Yeah, so as a summary, if you're looking for a single endpoint like simulate, like the one we have in ingest pipeline, then the answer is no. But there is a workaround, the one Tamara have explained, that you can take the input, you can apply the processors in the output, you can simply output that on the terminal. And then of course, I mean, you can reload those configurations and you can simply check the outcome on the terminal. But if you're looking for something like exactly as a simulate endpoint we have in ingest pipeline, unfortunately nothing, but there is a workaround, the one Tamara is trying to explain now.
inside the monitoring here, you are able actually to see your pipeline, but you cannot change it inside the Kibana. So you can see what pipeline, how long it took, but you cannot edit yet. So I don't know if they changed that, but it was the before. So short answer, no. But the workaround is good.
Yeah. And especially what Tamara have said earlier on the point of ingest pipeline and Logstash, I just would like to echo what Tamara has said, that our own solutions do use ingest pipeline. Okay, so that's kind of a really the way to look at the comparison or to look at the recommendation you was talking about, that our own internal solutions, we use ingest pipeline. So that's definitely recommended. Any other question?
Keep it coming. Good questions.
Yeah, good question. Great questions, no doubt. If you don't have any questions, I just have few more slides to go through. Tamara, shall I go through from those slides, or would you like to go through from those slides? Just like the last few slides, I can go through, sure. Let me just so can you see my slides now, the demo slide? Okay, so just last few slides, we do provide different kind of trainings. We have our flagship courses based on Elasticsearch, based on observability, and based on Kibana as well. And of course, based on security as well, because we have 3 solutions, as I have said earlier. We have engineering courses, which are based on stack, but in terms of the solution, we have observability solution. So we have a course for observability as well. And we also have a security solution, and we do have courses on security solution as well. So we have a dedicated curriculum for that. We have a dedicated curriculum team for that, which is working all the time on that curriculum. If you would like to get information, of course, all of that information is available on our website. All of these courses, they are taught by our experienced instructors. Like even Andre have mentioned earlier, that our first delivery in the EMEA region of that observability course is on 25th of May. And me and my colleague Tamara, we are delivering that course as well. We have one more thing here on this slide, which is about Elasticsearch Engineer 1 and 2, because these 2 courses, they provide a foundation for one of our certification called Elastic Certified Engineer. Again, for more information, we have a recorded webinar on our website as well, but as a quick info, it's a 3-hour long exam, which you can take at any time from anywhere. There are no MCQs or true and false. It's all hands-on exam. You will be provided an environment with some questions, with some challenges, or with some tasks, I would say, and you have to solve those tasks. If you can do that successfully, you will get some credit for that. But if you can even do partially, you will get partial credit for that as well. These 2 courses, they provide a foundation for Elastic Certified Engineer exam. But we have 2 more certifications coming up as well. One is based on observability, and the one will be based on data analysis with Kibana. We also have some specializations as well. If your use case is just based on, as an example, logging or metrics or security analytics or advanced search, we have these small modules available as well on demand, which are about 2 to 3 hours long. You can consume them at any time. So we already have done that Q&A. With that, I would like to say thank you very much. Unless if you have any question, you still have the time, you still have the opportunity to ask that question. But I would like to say thank you very much from my side, from Tamara, and of course from our management side as well, who did a fantastic job to organize this meetup. I honestly do hope that you have enjoyed this webinar and you had the opportunity to learn about, at least I would say, few things, if not a lot. Especially that demo was great, because that demo really complemented the theoretical part, where we had the opportunity to practically look at that, how we can have an ingest pipeline, how we can use different processors as well. Some useful links are available on this website, but now I'm gonna request Andre just to finish off this webinar by just adding some last few comments about the slide deck or about the recording of this webinar, etc. But again,